Hey YouTube family, what's happening? It's your boy Geeky Guy Comics back once again for another episode of the Killer Comic Show. Now this time around I've finally been able to get this person. I've been after him for a couple of months, but he's very busy. He's normally the one doing the interview, so I thought it's a decent time to flip the coin on his head and get him on my show. And it is none other than Mark from Aznfunk Comics. How you doing, dude?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
It's all good, man. It's all good. Thanks for taking the time to appear on Killer Comic Show. Now, normally, the Killer Comic Show is all about, we talk about the killer comics that came out this week, what a killer comic is to you. We sit and do some brief reviews over the comics that came out yesterday, but I think I haven't really read any comics this week. I know you haven't. You've been playing catch up. So I think we're just going to chill out, have a talk about comics and have a talk about you, really, mate, like how you got into YouTube, who you've been interviewing, what content you've got coming up. So, I mean, how are things going anyway? We've honestly got Captain Comics from across the pond. He's an absolute diamond geezer.
Oh man, we got people watching already? That's crazy.
We got Captain Comics. He's one of the guys. He stars on Lame or Frame with myself and Rod the Weekend, and I tell you what, his artistic skills are second to none. Honestly, if you do get a chance to check out the show, hit it up and have a look because it is wicked. It was England versus the USA, 4v4, and I don't want to give away the results, but we won. Wow, the UK. Spoiler. The UK beat the US. I'm sorry it had to happen, but it was a great show. It was wicked watching. But anyway, enough about that. So, how did you get into YouTube, Mark?
Oh man. It's like I just wanted to be able to share my comic collection and my my love for comics with people. And then, just not being able to go out and talk to people and go to my comic shop was kind of a bummer. So I was like, okay, well, how else can I do that? And YouTube was like the easiest way. I actually started with Instagram. And that was pretty cool. The community on there is like really awesome. And I was like, oh, but I wanted to start doing like videos and stuff because, you can only, I feel like you don't want to have like a 45-minute story on Instagram. I mean, you can now, but I was like, I don't like watching things, this way. I like watching them like this. So I was like, okay, I'll try YouTube. And that's just kind of how it started. I was like, all right, well, I'll just film myself in comics or conventions. Back when you could go to them. And then, I was like, all right, that's also when I started getting to like slabbing your comics, like CGC and stuff like that. Like I didn't really do that until I think like a couple of years ago. And I was like, okay, well, I should maybe just record doing stuff like that. But that's just kind of how it went. And then, I was like, well, I can't keep buying comics. I don't have that. I'm not like, I'm not like sponsored. I'm not like getting free comics all the time. And I was like, I'm running out of ideas to go and film. So I was like, I should just start interviewing people because it's free. And and so that's been going pretty well. Like until people stop saying no, then I'll stop doing interviews. But they keep saying yes. So
that's an absolute credit to you because I think, did you start on Instagram or did you kind of think, well, I'm going to do Instagram and then I'm going to move over into YouTube?
Yeah, I was like, okay, there's no way I can do both, but I mean, you can. Like, I feel like Instagram and YouTube are like, it uses two different parts of like your brain a little bit. Yeah. I feel like YouTube is more time consuming, and you put more like of yourself in there. I mean, you make videos for YouTube. You know what it's like talking to a camera or to a screen, and then trying to be like, you have to be like informative and interesting. And so there's a lot more work that goes into like a YouTube video. But I feel like on Instagram, you can kind of just do like little things, like just pictures or like things that you're thinking about. You don't really have to like put too much work into it. So I feel like I like doing both for different reasons.
Yeah. I think with YouTube, you can kind of you can, it's not that you can be someone else, but it's hard to be someone else because the camera's in front of you, you're portraying to an audience, whereas Instagram, you can hide behind posts and stuff like that, and no one really kind of knows where you are. I mean, obviously, I've always known you as Aznfunk. You've always known me as Geeky Guy Comics, and it's literally 2 minutes ago that we realised what our real names are. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you've got a different persona and stuff like that, but it's such a great community coming together through the love of comics.
For sure, yeah, definitely. And it's nice because, like, you know, I didn't think I would get to know anybody.
Hey, great man.
Yeah, I didn't think I would get to know anyone in the community beyond like the comic persona, right? Like, there's still a lot of people I follow and I know a lot about, but I don't know their real name.
Yeah.
But there's actually also a lot of people that I know a lot about, and I've never met them. So that's just kind of like the cool thing about the comic community is that you can know somebody, but you don't have to necessarily have met them in person.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Slim?
Hey, Slim.
But yeah, so that, I mean, and it's funny because like I have people in this community that I never met in person. So yeah, it's cool.
And this is the thing. So obviously, like, the UK community is now really, really taking off. We've got like the godfather of the UK comic community in the chat today. We've got the Grey Man. He's kind of, and it's really weird because before I did YouTube, I shop at a comic shop called A Place in Space, and there's about 3 or 4 of us in the UK that use that shop to shop in. But we've probably met each other and bumped into each other in the comic shop. But since we've been on YouTube, I've bumped into Dawn of Comics. I've bumped into, I think it's Simon from another comic collectible shop. But it's really weird because I'm probably thinking I've bumped into you before, and I honestly didn't even know you live around. Like, Grey Man lives around the corner from me. So it's really weird. And because we've been in lockdown and everything, we're kind of like, right, once we do come out of this, it'd be so good to get everyone all together, sit there, have a beer or coffee and talk about comics, because without this, we probably wouldn't have met each other and we wouldn't really know much about each other.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, like, so there's a guy, Hella Comics. I don't know if you've heard of him on it. Stuff like that. Yeah, we were actually supposed to, we didn't realize we lived near each other, and we were supposed to both go to the Berkeley Comic Con. It's a local convention. Yeah. Really small, but just like all comics. And we were supposed to go to that, I think in March, but then it got canceled because, you know, the zombie apocalypse. And so it's like, but yeah, I was supposed to meet up with him for the first time. And then, like, now even though I haven't met him, I feel like I know him. Yeah. But yeah, like, it's funny when you start hanging out with people in the community, then you realize, like, oh, there's actually other people around here. Like, you know, Reggie Collects is also in the area. Yeah. Who else is around? There's like tons of people. There's a lot of people in Sacramento. So yeah, it's cool to finally realize that, like, oh, the community is actually near you. Yeah. Which is awesome.
No, it is. And I mean, I think my get out was, I started in 2018. I went to Comic-Con dressed up as Wolverine. I've always read comics. I've read comics since I was young. Like, my dad had loads of comics. He handed them down to me and stuff. And then I'd always walk around with my phone, read a comic, write a little review or a blog or anything. And it was only when we was in Comic-Con that I was buying a comic, and I was like, you know, like, if you read and review comics, there's a platform for this. And I was like, what platform is this? And I was like, it's Instagram. And I'm like, oh, I know Instagram. I'm on there with my family and stuff. And then it was kind of like, I read a comic, posted a picture of it, wrote a review, and I got 4 or 5 likes. And I'm like, I didn't even know 4 or 5 people on Instagram at that time. So I was like, okay, this is going somewhere. I think it was Agent Deadpool, where he's got like his white tuxedo on. I was like, okay. So then kept going on. Before I know it, I got like 100 followers. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm obviously doing something here. And then it kind of just tail spun from there. And it took about probably 6 to 8 months to come up with the guy like Geeky Guy Comics. I mean, because how did you come around with like Aznfunk Comics?
That's a good question. It's funny because, like, for the longest time, I came up with like a few names, and I was like, gonna be really cool. Like, the one I really wanted to do was the variant fiend, like a variant cover or something like that. But I was like, oh, that's kind of hard to say. And then I was like, what about, you know, like Bay Area, what did I come up with? Like Bay Area comic dude or something like that. And I was like, that's kind of cool, but I think someone already had that. And there's a commercial for like some station in like the Philippines, and it's like, you know, it's called AXN or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of it's supposed to be action, AXN for action channel or something like that. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do something for like Asian. So I did AZN. So that's how that came up with, you know, I was like, oh, Asian funk, that's kind of funny. And so I just used that. But then the problem is a lot of people pronounce it as Aznfunk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's understandable because it looks like Aznfunk. And so I was like, oh well, it's too late now. But that's just kind of how I came up with it. And there's actually another person on YouTube who has like the funk name. And so anytime we're both on the same live chat, we're always like two funks in one chat or something like that.
How many
like,
funks does it take to change a light bulb?
Yeah, exactly. So we're always making fun. And they're like, oh, there's already too many funks in here. And then some guys like, oh, it's starting to smell because, you know, like the funk.
The funky smell.
So, yeah, it's getting funky. So it turned out fine. It's good. But that's how I came up with my name. But
as long as they don't call you Aznfunk.
I know. I think the first time I heard it pronounced that way was like, I was like watching Reggie Collects or something like that, and he read my name, and I was like, oh no, people are gonna start calling me Aznfunk. So because there's like, you know, hundreds of people on his live chat, and I was like, crap.
Talking about the plenty of people, we got Comics on the Mind. He's in here. How you doing, dude? Thank you for checking in. And I think it's Captain Comics' happy birthday. So happy birthday to the pirate of the YouTube family.
That's awesome. Happy birthday.
Just the Rican is checking in. Hey, Rod, we was literally just talking about your fantastic show where unfortunately the Americans are on a losing side. It was such a shame, but oh well. Hey Slim, hey Burritos in. There's quite a few of it. There's quite a few in.
Yeah, we got some comic book community royalty here. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to Rod the Rican. You know, I said this in a video of mine, I think for my 1K or whatever, but he's basically the guy who gave me my first shout out. Like he was really, yeah. It was his like Young Guns shout out or something, like new comic book people to follow, right?
Yeah. It's his Sunday. He does like his Sunday shout out show.
There it is.
The comic community, and it's thanks to him that he literally. I used to speak to when I started on Instagram. I was speaking to him, John Comics with Kids. There's Perry Comics, and then there's the late Comic Jabroni, and they was the four people that I would talk to, and it was really, really good. And they kind of, because I was on Instagram, I was kind of doing really well on Instagram, like my blogs and stuff. And it was making a transition over to YouTube. I was like, I'm quite confident I'll talk for ages. I'll talk to anyone. And it was like sitting in front of a camera talking. I wasn't confident enough to do it. And I'd reach out to Rod and I'd be like, I need some prep. And he was like, just do it. Like, if no one watches your content, no one's watching your content, you enjoy doing it. And it was kind of that push that I was like, right, I've got to do this. Let's just do it. And I'm really enjoying it. And it's just, you meet some amazing people through it. And you're talking about what you love. You're talking about what you enjoy. So why not share that with the community that want to listen to me talk about comics and you talk about comics and like interview people and stuff? It's pretty decent. Yeah.
Well, I want to give kudos to you because and just anyone who does live shows, I've never done a live stream or a live show. I'm terrified.
This is the first appearance right here. Look.
Yeah, okay. I take it. Well, this doesn't count because I'm being interviewed, so it's okay. But like, I could not. I do not do live shows. I just don't. I don't know. Like, I like to have things prepared. I like to know what I want to talk about. And yeah, I just can't. I can't do it. I get nervous. I get too scared. And so I just want to give props to you and everyone else that does like live streams and stuff like that, because I just don't do live stuff.
Well, do you know what? Like, it was a thing I was playing around with for ages. I was like, do I go live? Am I jumping in too early? Am I learning to run before I can walk? And I was like, well, if you don't put yourselves in these situations, you're never going to learn. I mean, because my weekly comic reviews that I do, I spend ages on it because I have to make sure I've got the right comic covers, all the variants, all the writing and stuff. So that goes out on a Friday, I think it is, and that's pre-recorded and everything, and that's decent. And then I do my like Funko Pop and comic unboxings with the reviews on the Monday and stuff. But it was this one I thought it's kind of like the community type of thing, which I've got to be honest, I got the kind of idea from this community interview and stuff from Rod, because he does it so well. He just sits, he's got his hat on, he sits in his high chair, his throne.
It's so cool.
He's got his belt over his shoulder and stuff. And it was my first appearance, I think, was on Rod's show. I was on Rod's show, and it was
really?
you came on my show, and he literally gave me 2 minutes. He was like, right, jump on, do a shout out to your channel, and then just stay in the background. I was staying in the background talking to everyone, kind of got a decent following, and I really enjoy the live chats and the live videos and stuff, because when things do mess up, it's live, you can't do anything about it. I mean, I think a couple of weeks ago I had Straight Outta Crampton on, and we were talking about comics. My internet shut down. Mark, my internet
that's one of the things I'm terrified about. Like, you never know what's going to happen, like
how it went down.
It
just went, and my screen went blank, and my mate Straight Outta Crampton just run my show for like 15 minutes while I'm in the background trying to sort out my Wi-Fi. And then I came back on, and it was lucky because he knew what comics we were talking about, so he was literally giving the reviews that we'd spoken about, and I just literally came back on and was just like sitting there watching it. Was like, yeah, you can run my show, it's fine.
That's hilarious. And see, that's exactly why, because this happened too. Like, I was doing an interview and my internet it was either unstable or cut out. And it's like, and that's why I don't do those interviews live, because at least like if it's pre-recorded, you can edit that part where I'm like trying to fix my camera or something like that. So that's like a personal thing. Like, it gives me anxiety to do like live shows.
Yeah. It's the same. It is the same as me. I like things to be perfect. Like, I like things to be pre-recorded. If it goes wrong, you can just cut it, edit it back. But with the live, I really like this part of thing, getting to know the community, talking about the comics and stuff. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. We're only humans. You know what I mean? It's you can edit it once it's on YouTube. So who really cares? So I think what I really want to know from you, because you've got an extensive comic collection. Like, I was watching your video the other day where you did the fantastic giveaway. And what I really enjoyed was the fact that the first part it just cuts to, and you just got boxes and boxes and boxes of comics. That's
not even that much compared to some people.
I know. Like, oh my god, if you look at Old Wolf, his comic, like every time I see one of his videos, I'm just looking, thinking he's got another long box, he's got another short box, he's got another 150 comics, like, and he's just sitting there, and I'm just like, how do you even get to that level? I mean, obviously I've got 6 long box full of comics. And I've got hand-me-downs and stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
But how did you get into comics?
I actually started collecting when I was younger, and I didn't really.
What are you now? 24.
How older than that? I'm actually closer to, let's say, 40. I just look like I'm 30.
I'm 35 this year. I'm 35 next month.
Oh well, early congratulations and early birthday.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. It's like most people, right? You start collecting young. I didn't go to like comic shops. I went to like a grocery store, and then you just look at in the magazine section. There'd be like one of those spinner racks, and so I was getting from that. And so I just picked out whatever looked good, and then I collected only for a few years, and then I stopped, and I started collecting cards. Like, I went to cards for a while, like hard.
Because I see that they're gonna like CGC your cards now, so you can finally.
Oh man, I'm just waiting for them to start grading
awesome.
cards. Yeah. Like they're almost doing sport. What is it? Yeah, they said they were going to do sports. So once they do that, then the next one's it's got to be Marvel cards.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be sending some stuff in. But yeah, and then I stopped collecting cards for a while because for me, like the cards weren't as good anymore. Like after the mid 90s, I didn't like the art.
Yeah.
And then so I took like a really long break, and then it wasn't. I think I would say like 5 years ago, I went like hard, maybe closer to 6 or 7. Basically, when it was like Stan Lee's like last like convention tour, when announced he wasn't going to go to conventions anymore.
Yeah.
I think that was the same year. It might have been 2017. That was the same year I started doing CGC for the first time. And that was also the same year where I was like, I'm going hard on comics. Like, I'm collecting all the comics that I've always wanted to collect. I want to get like some keys that I can afford. I'm going to start like really looking, like researching first appearances, stuff like that. That's when I actually like started like researching comics.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was only like the last 5 or 6 years I accumulated like 90% of my comics. It's easy to grow your collection really fast.
So, I mean, what do you like? What's your weekly comic buy like? Is it you go out on New Comic Book Day and buy comics? Are you into Silver Age comics, modern comics?
Yeah, so I read most of my comics digitally now. I never really had a pull box or like
Mm-hmm.
I never really
List,
did. Yeah. I never really did that because a part of me didn't want to commit to a storyline
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't even sure I was going to like. So
Yeah.
like I always just bought one issue at a time, and then if I liked it, I would buy the next one. And yeah, I don't do weekly. I like to, because so the main reason why I don't do weekly comics is because I like to read them all at once. Like I hate waiting.
Yeah.
Whether it's every week or every month or whatever it is, I cannot stand waiting. So
It's like a TV series, isn't it? It's like a TV series. You watch one episode and you got to wait.
I like to binge it.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's part of the reason why I don't do weekly comics. It's like I want to wait until the storyline's done, and then I buy like the either the omnibus or the like a book one or like a paperback, the trade paperback.
Yeah.
So that's what I wait for. And then that way I can just like blast through, like 10 issues. Mm-hmm. And so that's the main reason why I don't, but now that you can read books digitally, it's like now you can, now I can read weekly, and that's what I've actually started to do recently. Because I usually, when like a book comes out, like Shang-Chi #1 came out, I think like 2 weeks ago, and like I normally wouldn't even pick that up until like the run was over. Yeah. But now that you can read stuff digitally, now I can like try it. I can read the first issue and see if I like it, and then if I do, then I can just wait until the next one comes out.
See, that's what I like about. So you must have, like, with DC saying that there's potential of like, I think they lost like 800 jobs or 8,000 jobs or something, and it could all be gained digitally. I mean, I'm all for it. Everyone's got to move with the times and stuff. I mean, the digital comics that I read, because obviously DC release on a Tuesday, so you can read the digital DC on a Tuesday, and then obviously the rest of them release on the Wednesday. All the digital comics I read, I end up going to my comic book shop and buying them anyway. Mm-hmm. Because I've got comics that I haven't even opened because I've read it digitally. I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like you were asking about like what kind of comics do I buy? Mm-hmm. Well, I rarely buy modern comics now. Like I almost never buy modern books. Mm-hmm. The only times I'll ever buy a modern book is if I really love the artists. So like, for example, some of the Alex Ross ones, the Timeless.
Yep. Yeah, he's been killing it at the moment.
Yeah. Like those, mm-hmm. I won't buy all 22 of them, but I'll buy like 3 or 4. Yeah. So like those are the only, like if I ever buy a modern book, it's always because of the art, mm-hmm. the cover art. But like in terms of like older books, like like I'll buy like either Golden Age or Silver Age. Not so much Bronze. I don't buy too many Bronze. I don't even think I own that much. But I've been trying to like get rid of some of I have a lot of modern books that are slabbed or mm-hmm. and signed and stuff like that. And so I'm like, my thing right now is I'm trying to downsize because, mm-hmm. You've seen my wall of boxes, right? So I'm trying to like cut those down and either sell some or trade them for like one book that I really want. Just
Mm-hmm. Because I think that's what a lot of people, and I've started to do, because obviously there's a growl out there. I want the Batman Adventures #12, the original first appearance of Harley Quinn. But the only way I'm going to be able to actually fund that is to sell some of my back issues that I've got. And a lot of people that I'm speaking to now are doing the same thing. Instead of getting themselves in debt and selling this to buy that and robbing Peter to pay Paul, they're kind of thinking, well, I've got that comic now. I haven't read it for 15 years. It's worth so much. If I sell that, I'll be able to fund that. It's like an addiction. If I can buy this, I can fund that. And I think that it's a very sensible way of doing it.
Yeah. And that's something I didn't used to do, right? Like I wasn't into trading comics mm-hmm. at all, or I was really against buying comics online for a long time, because I was like, oh, I want to support the local comic shop, right? Like I want to go into a shop and buy a book. But it's like over time when you start wanting to look for harder, like key books, older books, you won't find those at your LCS. So you need to, online is the place to go. And so I was like, okay, I'll start buying digitally. But yeah, I now buy books where like it has some historical significance, or will have just a really cool cover. Or that's more like what I always put more stock in, is like a book that has really good eye appeal.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a high grade. Like I'm not talking like 9.0s or anything. As long as it just looks good, condition wise and cover wise, and then I'll buy it.
Yeah. See, the Grey Man's just said, "What is that Harley Quinn worth now?" So I think if you're going for the newsstand CGC, you're looking at about £2,400. Yeah. I mean, that's not that hasn't. I haven't got that like floating around, and I think Slim Comics has said 350. On up, see, it's ridiculous. I mean, like if you get, because the thing is now with like the CGCs, I've only got like 3 or 4 of them. My latest one was
keep it that way, because once you start buying some, it's hard to stop.
I mean, this was my latest one. That one.
Oh, that's nice.
The G High Lee variant, and this was one of the only ones that I was like, I waited so long. I'm a massive Harley Quinn fan, so I was like, I like the artwork. It came in. I ended up sending it off to CGC in February, and I literally got it back. I think it was the end of August, because of obviously lockdown hit. And I was like, what am I going to get? Am I going to get a 9.5? What am I going to get? 9.6? Whatever thing. And I didn't know what I got. My guy Tom in a comic book shop said, "This is coming. Do you want to know what it is?" I was like, "No." I came home, said to my wife, I said, "Look, you have a look and tell me what it is, but I don't want to know." And I ended up doing an unboxing. I was like, "Oh my god, I got a 9.8. It's wicked." And it is so cool. Thank you. But I mean, CGCs, like people unboxing CGCs now has become a massive thing on YouTube.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing, right? There's no way on my channel anyway, there's no way I can compete with constantly getting new slabs in. Like there's just no way. Like there's not that many books that I want slabbed. And I just don't have the space. That's actually the other thing too. Like I don't have the space to store slabbed books. It's just they're big, they're heavy, and I just can't. I don't have the space. Yeah. But that's why I'm trying to like downsize a little bit. But it's nice. It's nice to have them preserved, especially if it's high grade.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that is. I think Slim just said it. He said CGC really makes higher grades comics. It does, because obviously you're adding that element of expensiveness to it, because it's behind a sealed box. You can't touch it. It looks elegant. But who does slabbing in the UK? See, Greyman, I go to a place in Space, which is our comic book shop, and they do it. I think to get that done, it costs like £28, and it would have normally taken 3 to 4 weeks, but it took 4 to 6 months because of lockdown.
Does your shop have an account? They send the books for you.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So you take them in, and they do it all for you and stuff. But they also sell slabbed comics in their shop as well. And I'm not one for that. I'd rather have a comic that I like and then go and do it, because I'd rather wait and see what grade I'm getting back at a comic, instead of going into there and picking it on the wall and say, "Oh, I know it's a 9.8," because the whole excitement is about wondering what grade you're going to get. Yep,
that's true. And it's funny because like I feel I'm happy that I'm not the type of person that really cares too much if it's like a 9.8. Like there's some people where it's like if it's not a 9.8, it's garbage.
Yeah.
But it's like I am okay with like 0.5s. Like I have so many 0.5 graded slabs, and I am okay with that. But yeah, I mean, it's of course it's always nice to have that 9.8. I've got a couple of those, but if it's a book I really care about, I don't care if it comes back at a 0.5. No, exactly. I just want it slabbed.
I mean, because I've got one of my first comics that I got from my dad when it was I did a comic book show with I was on Straight Outta Crampton's comic book show, and it was the comic on the date and month, the year and month that you were born, which is quite a cool thing, because you can't pick that comic.
That's right.
And mine was Iron Man 200, which is the first appearance of the Ironmonger, and I think it's the first appearance of the Iron Man Mark 7 suit. So I got given that when I was a kid, and I've kept it, and it was in like my dad, instead of, I don't think they had bags and balls back then, but he had literally 2 bits of cardboard shoved in it, and it was cling filmed. So
Interesting.
so it was solid, and it was up in the loft, and I managed to get it back and everything like that. But it was only recently that when I was going through it, I was like, it was, but yeah, 2018, I started getting back into the comics. And I was going through it, and I was like, this is in pristine condition, and it wasn't even bagged and balled. So then it kind of makes you think, well, if he's had that for so long, why do I need to get CGC'd? But then I'm looking at that comic now, where I've got comic expertise because I'm doing all this and stuff. That comic I will be getting CGC, because then I know that it's going to stay in that condition. Yep. It's kind of like a family heirloom, as it were, and it was like, it means something to me, which then goes back to, why would people go in and buy a CGC comic that they know has already been graded and hasn't got no relevance to them?
Yeah. I mean, it's like if I'm after a book, if I have a choice between buying it slabbed and raw, I will always buy it. Sometimes, okay, I would prefer to buy it raw, but sometimes the raw copy is way more expensive than a low graded CGC slab.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, I guess I'll buy the graded slab because it's already, preserved, and it's cheaper for me. So I never understood that. I always thought if it's slabbed, it's more expensive, but that's not the case.
No, because there was a thing I think it was a couple of months ago. It was I think it was San Diego Comic-Con, the one that just went, and there was a big hoo-ha on the internet that there was a guy who was doing CGC grade, and he had a wet pen or something. He was just flicking through, and he was like scrumping up all the paper. Did you see it? Yeah.
Like, people were like, so it's like, what are you doing? It's an Action Comics #1.
Do you know what I mean? What you're doing, and it begs to differ whether they actually care.
I think it depends on the grader.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten books back where it's like, I know this is not a high grade, and it came back like a 9.6, and it's like, okay. And then there were books where I'm like, this is got to be at least a 9.6 or higher, and it came back like a 7, and I'm just like, I don't get it. So it really depends on who you get, and like if they're in a good mood, all that stuff.
I mean, when you do send them off, do you use CGC or do you use CBS? Is it CBS?
CBCS.
CBCS, yeah.
I have never sent a book to CBCS. I've only ever sent it to CGC, but I have bought books that were in CBCS and PGX. So I do have, I have all three. Those are the major ones here in America. Those are I have all 3 of them, but I mainly use CGC.
I think Slim Comics does as well. He's waiting for his books to come back from CGC. See, that's the exciting thing, like waiting for the comics to come back, and then you just see a massive box and you pull out like these big things.
It's Christmas,
Where am I going to put them all?
Yeah. And that's why, like, and that's the thing, right? Like I was saying earlier, I don't have that. I'm not getting books slabbed anymore because like there aren't that many books I want slabbed. But I have a friend. You've seen him, like unboxing for a friend, right? Where he gets his books slabbed and then he lets me unbox them. So that's like the best. That it works out perfectly because then I still get to unbox it, even though I don't know what's in the box. So
yeah. But it is, I mean, so obviously, like moving on from comics and stuff like that, it's clear to see you're passionate about comics. You've got a love with comics, which is why we're here. But you mentioned that you moved on to wanting to do like the interviews and stuff. Now, what was your thought process behind moving on from the comics, other than like thinking, hell, I'm running out of people to talk, I've got no content? There's obviously a backstory for why you want to do that, and like the people you're interviewing, you must have like a general interest in what they do and stuff.
Yeah. So the basic idea was like, I should talk to people in the comic book community, right? But then I was like, okay, well, people are already doing that. People in the community are already talking to each other, which is great. And I was like, well, I don't want to just be another person who talks to another person in the community, because everyone's already doing that. Everyone's already doing it really well. And, I was like, okay, well, why don't I try to ask let me talk to somebody that no one has talked to before. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, it's got to be somebody in the comic book industry
Yeah.
or something. And so that's where I started. I was like, oh, let me see if I can like ask like a local artist or a local writer. And then I was like, you know what? I should just shoot for the stars, aim high, and then ask somebody that like I actually want to talk to, because we weren't going to conventions anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
we weren't going to meet creators or artists at a con. So I was like, okay, well, if I went to a convention, who would I want to talk to? And I was like, okay, well, let me make a list of people. And like some of the first people was like the showrunners for X-Men the animated series, right?
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk to them, and I literally just asked them on Twitter, as a kind of like a joke. I was like, you know, would you want to talk to me about stuff? And they said yes, and I was like, are you sure? Because I am nobody.
Yeah.
I'm no one. I'm just some guy on the internet. And then they were like, yeah, let's talk. And then that they were my first interview ever.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that was cool. I should start doing that. And it just snowballed from there.
But it's good though, isn't it? Like, because I think on my second or third show, I had the artist Ryan Brown. And
that was a great interview, by the way.
Do you know what? I've been
like a really cool guy that you just want to have like a beer with. And I was like, this guy.
This is what a lot of people have said. And I've been hounding him. Well, not hounding him. I mean, I'm going to say I was hounding him.
I know what you mean.
I've been messaging him saying, oh, no, I'm doing this Killer Comic show. Would you come on just to talk about, like, you've got new comics? I've got a few of yours. I've got, like, Morbius. You've done some variants for, like, the Immortal Hulk and stuff. Would you mind coming on? And he's like, yeah, sure. That was it. And I was like, so I'd reach out to him again. Oh, well, my show's starting this week. Would you like to come on for week 2? This is the day. And he was like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, oh, my God. Like, he was very one-dimensional, one answer. And I'm like,
he's like,
yeah, so he's in Belfast, which is obviously not too far. It's about an hour flight.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, is he an arsehole, or is he actually a nice guy, or is he really busy? So then I've reached out to him again and say, I was like, hi, Ryan, like, you're due to be on my show next week. Can we kind of like start exchanging text messages so you kind of know what the concept is? And he was like, yeah, sure. Dose it again. And I'm like,
you're like, okay.
And then
it's cool how like they're just like normal guys, right? Like normal people.
And then he came back to me and he was like, oh, sorry, I've been really abrupt. I don't really come onto Instagram. So take my personal Facebook and message me on that. So I'm talking to him on Facebook, and instead of it coming up as Geeky Guy Comics, it come up as Charlie Powell. And he's like, sorry, who are you? And I was like, I'm Geeky Guy Comics. He was like, oh, okay. So then we're going back and forwards about that. And then as we was about to go live, I think it was about 20 minutes before we go live, he just messaged me saying, I've just finished what I'm working on. Fancy a chat? So we jumped on here in the green room. We're sitting there talking. Wow. And then before you know it, it says, right, 30 seconds. I'm like, Ryan, I'm going to have to cut you short, mate. I've got to put on a 30-second time. So I put it on, and then we come back on, and he just sits there. And I'm like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 Killer Comic Show episode 2. We've got the fantastic variant artist from DC, Marvel, Image, Boom Studios, just one and only Ryan Brown. And it comes onto his camera, and he just sits there like this.
Yeah.
And I was like,
you're like, where was the guy that was just like talking to me?
I'm like, I think he's frozen. And then he went, only joking, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that's good.
Honestly, he was such a nice bloke. I think me, him, and the Grey Man were talking about fish and chips for about 20 minutes. And then mushy peas and stuff, but he's just so down to earth. And there was a bit of anxiety for me. I was like, oh my God, you're like this multi-genius that does all these comic book variants and stuff, and you're going to sit there and talk to me from Southeast London who just wants to talk about comics and how you got into it and stuff. And he made it so easy, and it kind of changed my perception of they're normal people at the end of the day. Do you know? Like, and they say never meet your idols and stuff like that, but when you have a good interview like that went on for like 2.5 hours. Yeah. And it was really enjoyable. It was really good. And that's why I kind of kept doing it. I was like, this is really enjoyable. So good.
It's fun, right? Like, it's kind of like, it's like another form of comic book collecting, because like, you know, you got the one, now you're like, okay, what's the next one? Right. So now you're kind of like, you're looking for the next interview. What do you do to prep? Because I know like there's prep I do for a certain person. What do you do? Like for basically, what did you? I mean, you were already a fan, so that worked. That helped.
So for Ryan Brown, I kind of went back to see what he was working on, what his best art was, what he had coming up, where he's based, what he's been doing during lockdown and stuff. And it was just kind of generic questions that I emailed him before and just said, look, these are the questions that I'm going to ask, like how you got into it, who was your influence growing up, who was your biggest artist that you really spent time investing in, do you read comics when you're not working? And it was just stuff like that. And he kind of just went with it. And I think like halfway through, he started throwing me questions. I'm like, whoa, mate, hold on. This is really weird. I've gone from being the interviewer to the interviewee. But it was really good because you kind of think these people aren't going to invest the time and stuff like that. And then when it became really relaxed, and it was just like a general chat, just like we're having now, but with a fantastic artist. And it was, I mean, like for the prep, I don't really like, I kind of just blag it.
Wow. That's gutsy. Yeah, okay.
I just go with it, because if I find out I'm reading from a script, I'd be end up like, so yes, what was the first ever comic that you bought? And I find out myself just going like this, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing, right? I used to, for the first interview with the X-Men people, I had like a 3 pages of questions, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask each question and it's gonna be great. But when you're talking to somebody, you can't always keep going back to that, you know, because you need to go with the flow of the person you're interviewing. So that's what I've learned, is that you create, well, for me anyway, I make a list of questions, but it's just there in case you want to talk about something. Because
that's exactly what I didn't want to do with Ryan Brown. I didn't want to say, so how did you get into comics? And then he goes, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know what he says. If he skips the question 10, I'm like, right, yep, so you've skipped to question 10. That is, oh yeah, so is there anything else you'd like to say to the viewers? Goodbye. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, they're kind of just like bullet points. But I mean, this is the only live show that I do. I mean, I think because with the comic reviews and stuff, and with like the unboxings and stuff, it's hard to do that live. Whereas this is kind of like a different platform. You can sit down, you can have a chat about comics. If people want to jump in the chat and want to have a chat, have a talk, it's kind of good. But yeah, like there was one that I did, my next week's show, it's with the artist for Alienated. It was from Boom Studios.
Who's the artist?
It's Chris Wildgoose. Now he did a few comics a while back called Porcelain.
Where's he based?
He's based in the UK.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was the writer was Simon Spurrier, and it was from Alienated. It's a really, really good comic. If you haven't read it and you're kind of into your indie stuff, it's kind of about these three teenagers that are going through different emotions and different family things and stuff, and they kind of all come to one thing due to like an alien. But it's a really, really graphical content comic. It's really like, it really gets you thinking. And I was meant to be doing that live with him, but he was like, look, I don't know when I'm going to be able to tie myself down. I don't want to say I can do it, and then I totally mess up your live stream. So I was like, right, let me just tie it down. I think it was on a Tuesday night. We recorded it, got it pre-recorded. That's the show that's going out next week. But it was really good. Again, it was just a casual sit down, and it was just wicked just to sit there and talk and find out what they're still using to do their art. I mean, Ryan Brown was like, he's still using water-based coloured paint for some of his artwork, and it's just incredible to see the stuff that they can create by doing, because it's all digital now. It's all on like iPads and Procreate and stuff like that. So to go back to see him still using a pen and paper it's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Like I was watching an interview on Superpower Review. You know, Karate Kevin. He interviewed Joe Rubenstein, and he was saying that he doesn't use digital. He still uses like stuff he did like in the 70s, 80s and stuff like that. And it's like, that's crazy, you know? And it's good to hear like some of these guys, they, you know, they haven't moved over to digital. They're still using like inks and stuff. Yeah. So that's always nice to hear.
But it is interesting because you think everyone's got to move with the times, but these people they're sticking to what they know. Like they say, don't fix it if it ain't broken. But I mean, they're still putting out the content, and it was really interesting speaking to Ryan Brown, because he was like, I pulled up one of the comics that he'd done, and he was like, "That's not the right one," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And he was like, "No,
that too."
He was like, "It's the right one," but that was like a demo that I sent to DC before they published it, and I was like, what, they're allowed to do that? And he was like, yeah, sometimes I'll send them like a design that I've come up with, and they'll release that as a press release to get the interest. And then when it does come out, he said, because it can create interest, it can also create disinterest, because people are waiting for that variant comic and it doesn't come out, and it's totally changed. So it was really great to have an insight into the artist, but then also one of the writers I've got coming up on my show as well. It's really weird because the similarities are the same. They still kind of go into their mind bubble. They still kind of work. They still kind of talk to each other, which is why lockdown didn't really change anything for them.
Right, because they worked from home anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't ask that question like, oh, how's your work situation changed? Like, oh, it hasn't. I still work from home. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. Good for you.
Nice one. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, great. But yeah, it's crazy to hear some of the people like, oh yeah, I've never worked anywhere else.
Cheers, Slim. I know you've got to go, dude. Cheers, Slim. Thanks for checking in. But yeah, it is mental. So obviously you interviewed, like, one of my favorite videos was the one you did with Kate Bristol, who is the voice of Pika Pika, obviously.
Yeah.
From the movie. Now you seem to really enjoy that, and she was really enjoyable as well. And it was a great interview to watch because she was kind of excitable as well. She was kind of, you can see why she's got the voice of Pikachu, because she's like a overexcited teenager, as it were. How did that come about?
Ooh, same thing. I followed her on Twitter, and I was like, I didn't even know, like I'd have heard of her name before, but I didn't realize that was the same person who did, a bunch of voices. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never interviewed a voice person before. And she's, I've only stuck with like comic book people. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I should probably branch out a little bit and see if, because it's like, if you're a comic book person, right, you're probably also into other things. Like you probably collect cards, you probably collect posters, action figures.
I got my Funko Pop.
Movies. Yeah. So like, I'm like, okay, well, maybe people in the community will be interested in a voice actress and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I'll ask her. She said yes. And the crazy thing that really blew my mind was that when I asked her, she had said that she'd seen some of my other videos. And I was just like, what?
That's
like,
cool.
Seen other video, like, and I was like, which one? Which one? Because like I've only made like 4, that are like interviews, like non-comic book stuff. I can't remember which one she said she watched. Oh, the Squirrel Girl. She watched Will Murray.
Yes.
She watched that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, that's good to hear. Which is a comic book interview. So that just means that other people in other industries are also interested in comics. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. But anyway, yeah, she's awesome. She made the interview really easy.
Yeah.
Like you know what it's like when the person you're talking to just like makes it easy for you.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the easiest interviews I've ever done. Like really, really cool, like very animated, full of stories. Like I think that was the other thing too, is that she's just full of stories, and like really willing to like just tell you her experience, like, and she's not afraid to cuss, which is like amazing. She's just like, really cool.
Fuck this, I don't care. It's so cool. It was cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. But and I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm gonna start interviewing other voice actors and actresses, but most of them they're too busy. So that's what I've realized.
We'll see, because I've been, obviously, I think, unless you've been living under a rock or you've been taken up 50,000 feet up in the air by a tornado, I think everyone will agree that Donny Cates at the moment is absolutely killing Thor and Venom. Like during lockdown, I think I'd read Venom 1 and 2, and I kind of like, I've never been a massive Venom fan. I was kind of, I'm going to not read this. And I was always into, it was the Thor run before Donny Cates. It was, I can't remember who it is. And I was like, I don't want to cheat on him. I don't want to read the Donny Cates Thor. But it's insane. It's like Venom, like I read Venom 29 yesterday, and it is amazing. Like anything Donny Cates turns to gold at the moment. We've got the crossover happening, which is going to be insane. So I thought, right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to hound this guy. Reached out to him on Twitter, reached out to him on Instagram, not thinking anything of it. And then last month, I was going through my messages. I thought, do I message him again on Instagram? And it said he'd seen my message. I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't there 6 weeks ago. Oh my God, he's actually read it. He's actually read it. And I was like, shit. I'm like starting panicking, sweating. I'm like, thought I was going into labour. And then I'm like, he's seen it. Oh, well, he's someone, one of his PAs or something's seen it.
Yeah.
And then he kind of came back to me and was like, look, I'm happy to be on your show. As you can imagine, I'm absolutely swamped under at the moment. Feel free to drop me a message and I'll just let you know my time schedule and stuff like that. So I'm like,
Oh,
so I'm really looking forward to. I'm just gonna keep hounding him.
Man, yeah, for sure. That you know what? It's like just the fact that they replied to you is like a huge thing because they have every right to not say anything. They can just ignore you and you have to just accept that and be like, okay, well, but like for them to reply is like it's huge. And for them to say like, if, let me check in with me again later. Like that's a big deal. So
I ran to my wife and was like, Donny Cates. She's like, who the hell is Donny Cates? I'm like, Thor, Venom. She's like, okay. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yes, okay. I'm like, well, fucking hell, like, do you know what I mean? It's Donny Cates, like, he's the man.
That's huge. That's like up here. That's like your.
Oh my God. Yeah. But if I can pull that off,
get that one. That'll be exciting. You better bring it to that interview.
I'm going to try and bring it. But another guy that I'm trying to get on, who I've been speaking to, is Ji Hying Lee, right? So obviously the guy who's done this, he does fantastic variant covers. I've been speaking to him, and he's over in Indonesia now. I have been speaking to him, but I've also been speaking to his agent as well because his agent speaks better English. So the way that we're going to have to do this, I'm not going to do it live because it could end up being an absolute shit show because I'd have to ask the questions, his agent's got to translate them, and before you know, people are sitting there going, he hasn't even answered the first question yet. So I'm going to have to edit. That one's going to have to be pre-recorded because I've sent in the questions and stuff. I think his agent is quarantining at the moment, so there's obviously 2 weeks. So it's just trying to work around people's schedules. But when you do a live show, it's hard to do that.
That's why I don't do it.
Yeah, that's it. It's hard to say because obviously when you spend time and everything doing the thumbnails and stuff and you drop it in, and then I think I was meant to do a couple of guys. That sounds really weird.
I knew what you said. You can't edit that out. That's on YouTube.
It's all good. It's all good. I was meant to have a couple of guys on the show who are based in the UK, and at the last minute they was like, unfortunately we got to pull out, and I was like, that's.
I bet that's what they said. It's cool,
So I mean, this is why you should do live all the time, Mark. Just there's no filters. But they pulled out, and I was like, right, I've got no one to come on my show. I'm left now. Like I've now.
You've promoted it.
Now I've promoted it and stuff, and it was lucky because I managed to reach out to my mate Ben from Straight Out Crampton. Was like, Ben, you was on last week. You had to run my show because the Wi-Fi cut down. Not quite mint, aren't able to make it. Do you want to jump back on? And he was like, I'm more than happy to. And it was good because he was able to do that. I was able to send out another thumbnail. But I don't know if you're the same, but I use Instagram as a feeder to YouTube.
What do you mean?
So I kind of promote my stuff on Instagram to push it to YouTube. Whereas before I had YouTube, I was doing everything on Instagram. And I was doing my comic reviews, I was doing my unboxings, I was doing my promotions and everything on there. And it weren't leading anywhere. But a lot of people seem to be using that as a platform now. Do you do the same?
Yep. That's the thing. Like I started with Instagram. You build up your community, and then if you do a YouTube channel, then it's like some content goes onto YouTube and that you don't do on Instagram. And you just use Instagram to be like, hey, if you want more stuff, there's stuff on YouTube. So that's what I use that too. It's just that a lot of people do that. That's just how it goes. Yeah.
There was a guy that he doesn't do it now, but he was really smart. He posted a video on Instagram and it had no sound. And I was like, what's he doing here? And I messaged him and was like, Ryan, mate, I don't think you've got any sound on your video. He was like, yeah, why do you think I did that? And I was like, I don't know. He was like, because now where I've got the YouTube logo in there, they've got to click over to YouTube to listen to what I'm talking about. And I was like, that's very smart. That's very smart. And I still haven't got round to doing that yet because
So then
I
you
was
have
like,
to.
you
Yes,
have
you
to
have to
got
make a clip with no sound. Or
yeah,
no. I think when you upload it, you can tell it no sound, right?
yeah, yeah. And that's all he did. And he was like, you're not the first person to message me saying I've got no sound. He said, but everyone's messaging me saying, oh my God, I can't hear it. And they're like, well, go over to YouTube. You can hear what I'm talking about there. How smart is that? Great, man. I've got to go as my blog is
Yeah.
premiering now. Great, man. It's always a pleasure having you in the chat. Thank you for checking in. But yeah, so Mark,
That's
it's been, mate, it's been fantastic having you. What else have you got coming up in your content for the
cool.
month? So,
Man,
whereabouts are you based?
I am based in California, so I'm with
Sunny side up.
Reggie. I'm with
You lucky SOB.
yeah. There's a lot of people in California, you know. But it's cool. I'm really jealous because a lot of the people I've been interviewing, I'm starting to interview people internationally now. You know, like Stephanie Hans is in France. Who did I interview? I interviewed Mike De La Paz. He's a toy artist. He's in the Philippines. And then this morning, like 4 hours before I was talking to you, I was talking to somebody in Indonesia. They do mech suits, like cosplay.
Oh wow!
They do like robot suits. So yeah, it's hard doing international interviews, that's for sure. But I'm trying to do more and more global interviews. That's what I'm trying to work on right now.
But that's that. I mean, yeah, wasn't it the one was it how to animate your action figures?
Yes.
That was pretty cool.
Did you like that? Oh, God, thank you.
I love that. I mean, I'm into my action figures. I'm into my like Funko Pops and stuff, and that kind of that's how spun from comics.
I'm gonna let you know right now. I'm talking to somebody who is a Funko guy, so I think you're gonna like that one. That's coming out soon. So that's a little tease. A Funko guy.
Oh, that'd be yeah. I'm definitely gonna tune in for that because it's really weird. Because obviously, when I was a kid, I used to collect the figures like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures, the Ghostbusters, and it's when I got into comics, I think I went out to buy a comic and ended up buying a Funko Pop. And my collection of Funko Pops now, my wife will tell you she wished it didn't exist because every other day there's a Funko Pop being delivered. I partner with a toy company over here called I partner with a toy company over here called Sonna Toys, and they're forever sending me stuff saying, "Oh, can you promote this? Can you promote that?" and stuff. And I'm like, "I'm happy to promote it. Do you need it back?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "This is insane." Like it is.
That's where I need to be. I need to be at that part where people send you free stuff. That's where I'm trying to get at right now.
But you've got such a big following on YouTube. Like I'm trying to do that. I'm on the flip side of the thing because obviously yourself, you've got Rod, you've got Perry Comics who has blown up.
Oh my God.
Since he started doing his reaction videos, he went from like 1.7 thousand subscribers to like he's hitting like nearly 12 now.
Yeah.
So massive congrats to him. But
for sure, we're all looking for that. What's that one video that's going to get us? You know.
But you guys are doing really big on like YouTube and stuff with like your 11Ks, 15Ks and stuff. And I kind of started on Instagram. I invested so heavily into Instagram, and now trying to make the transition over to YouTube is slowly getting there. It is slowly getting there, but it's kind of we've got someone else. Hey, Comic Canuck, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining in. We are just talking about like how you use Instagram and YouTube as partners. But yeah, you guys have made an absolute killing on YouTube, and I'm kind of on the flip side of that. So I'm trying to flip it over and do that. I mean, have you got any advice?
Okay, so the best advice I can give you is engaging with other YouTubers. That is the best advice I can give you because YouTube they will not promote it. They choose who they want to promote.
Yeah.
And the only way, that's why I use Instagram to promote my videos, is because a lot of people some people only know about my videos from Instagram.
Yeah.
So the best advice I can give you to grow your YouTube community and following is just to engage with other people in your community. You know, that's the best thing to do. Comment, like.
Yeah,
that's the best thing. Yeah,
it is, isn't it? Comment, like, and share. I mean, because everyone I mean, it is great, and since doing this, like, you get the exposure and stuff. But I mean, if I was to sit on, I mean, I think I'm on like 370 something. If I'm to sit on that, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. If I get to the 1,000, the magic 1,000, that's great. But I enjoy talking to like yourself. I enjoy talking to the comic book community. I've made some really good friends from it. So obviously, on the plus side, if there's people that want to enjoy my content and watch me, why wouldn't I want to read the awards and stuff?
Yeah, well, you have like 5K or something on Instagram, right? Like, that's huge.
Yeah, I think I think it's like 8.5 now.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Well, see, look, that's the thing. When I followed you, when we connected on Instagram, you had 5K. So now you got 8. Get the hell out of here, man.
I've got 8.
I just crossed 3K, and it's taken me like 4 years. You know. So, man, congrats, 8K.
Well, we are doing something right, because Comic Canuck is just like great info for someone like myself starting out. And I'll tell you what, Comic Canuck, this is kind of where you get it all. Like reaching out, jumping in streams like this, as Aznfunk just said, jumping in streams like this and just asking the questions is kind of like where I started. And it's just being engaging. It's like interacting with people. Like if someone posts, really liked your video, just get back to them and stuff like that. Because if you post a video and you don't reply to a comment, people are going to be like, well, why am I going to bother watching his videos? Why am I going to bother trying to interact with him if he's not going to talk to me?
Right. Well,
so
the thing is, it's like the only way other people are going to know about you, right, is like if you're engaging. So like go to try to jump in some live streams, and, like actually say, hey, everybody, stuff like that. Like just doing that stuff, like right now, people who are popping in, I'm trying to look for them on Instagram. I'm going to go add them if you're on there.
Yeah.
So that's how you connect. That's how you grow.
It is. It's such a great community, and the thing is, on the back of like Geeky Eye Comics and stuff with the Funkos, the people that are now watching my posts from Funko Pops, they're like, oh my god, like you do comic books as well, so I'm going to start reading into comic books. I haven't read comic books for years, but now I'm going to get into it. It's kind of like, if people are coming and watching my content to get into something, I'm doing a good job. I'm happy with that. That's kind of why I'm doing it. And there was a guy recently, he messaged me saying, oh, your friend Darren the Poptimist from the UK, he said you're the guy to go to read some trade paperbacks. What would you suggest? And I suggested some, and then he sent me a picture of all the ones that he bought. It's like, oh, I would never have thought about reading these if it wasn't for you. And I was like, wow, this is kind of awesome. It's really good. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the stuff you're putting out. I think it's wicked, mate. I've been a fan of yours, and I'm definitely looking forward to the Funko interview that you've got coming up.
Definitely, I'll tag you in it for sure.
I'll go. So are you on lockdown at the moment, or are you out and about? Are you able to?
Yeah. I try not to go out if I can help it, but you gotta try to be careful. We try to stay in if we can. So
yeah. But I mean, Mark, it's been absolutely amazing. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and share button. Check us both out on Instagram. Our names are there. I think yours has got the underscore in between Funk and Comics, hasn't it?
I think it's one word. It better be one word.
I'm going to have to check that. Well, anyway, check us out on Instagram. Hit us up on YouTube. Check out some of Mark's fantastic videos. There's something there for everyone. There's comics, there's CGC unboxings, there's toy chat, there's Pokemon chat, there's Funko chat coming up, which I will be first in the queue and first in your chat for that. And here, what's it say? Love the video scrolling ticker. What is that? This is right. So this is what all of us fantastic YouTubers use. This is called StreamYard. Now, this is you can get a free version of this, or you can buy the paid version where you can get all this fancy get up and stuff for it. But at the end of the day, no one's really interested in that. They just want to listen to the people talk about comics. So if you're just starting out, get used to it first of all before you invest the money in it. But if you need any tips, Comic Canuck, just hit me over on YouTube or Instagram, and I can give you some advice.
Your next video tutorial.
Tutorial on a YouTube StreamYard. There's probably loads of them out there, but none of them are as interesting as me, mate. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, thanks for checking in. It's been great. I'll keep in contact with you on Instagram. It's been fantastic. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to sit down and talk to a Southeast Londoner about comics and how you got into it. It's been very interesting. You're very easy to talk to, mate. So thank you for making it a pleasure for me to talk to you. And as always, everyone, if I don't see you for a week, you should know this by now, but I'll see you through the Geek Guy window. Cheers, guys.
Bye.